This is a PM update. Today we're going to look at a recent interview with former White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson. She was on Jen Psaki's show on MSNBC, and she had some really fascinating stuff to say, starting out with just how extremely frightened she thinks Trump is right now.
I have been part of the Trump administration for several years, and I know when he starts to get nervous. I know that Donald Trump has to be nervous, if not extremely frightened right now, because what is happening is he is deploying his most loyal allies on Capitol Hill to try to discredit not only my testimony, but the entire January 6th investigation as a whole. The facts are out there, and he doesn't want the facts out there because he doesn't want the American people to know what actually happened. He's hoping that his false narrative of what happened on January 6th is what the American people will believe heading up to the November election. And it's really imperative that we keep speaking about the truth, because the facts are the facts, and Donald Trump has tried to smear those with his deceit and his lies. Donald Trump lashes out when he feels threatened, and he's lashing out right now because he does not want the American people to know that he was responsible for the single most egregious attack on our democracy.
Yeah, he lashes out. He's extremely frightened. That's who Donald Trump is. A little, weak, frightened man, scared of Cassidy Hutchinson, of all people. She also had this really interesting thing to say, and I think this is an issue that people haven't discussed a lot, but one that I think is crucially important.
Now, what I will say to that, too, though, is when you mentioned the report, much of my testimony is corroborated, but there also is one key piece, and that's the fact that he knew that there were weapons in the crowd. His Secret Service agents testified that he was aware that that's why they were not coming through the magnetometers. That's a key piece of evidence for the American people to know, and for the jury, hopefully, that will convene before the election, because it speaks to his state of mind.
Yeah, this is really important, and I think it has been missed. The fact that he knew that the insurrectionists were armed indicates he knew the level of violence that they could unleash, and he was not worried about that. And I think that's something we have to remember, because it's not merely what happened, but it's what could happen. What was his intent? And speaking of intent and violence, listen to what Cassidy says next.
But I think when we look at the bigger picture, he's not just threatening this with me. He's threatening it with Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, people who served on the January 6th committee. He's threatening other potential witnesses in other cases, that federal indictments that have come down, potential jurors, judges. There are a large swath of Americans that may need security going into this next year because he has committed to unleashing political violence on these people. That's not what a leader does, and we're expecting him to be the Republican nominee again. He's there to support the people of America, not to silence them.
There to support the people of America, not to silence them. Such a good point. Such a good point. And he is not doing that, clearly, right? Even his supporters know he's not doing that. We've got one more really important clip where she reacts to something that Sarah Matthews, former deputy press secretary, had to say. But before we get to that, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps the channel. You may not think it does, but it does. And then please subscribe. We need subscribers. And then ringling that dingling bell. And then you get the latest of our video announcements.
Obviously, we look around and it's mainly the women, and especially young women, who are speaking out. And so I would just encourage maybe the men who are twice my age, who held way higher positions of power than me, who also know that Donald Trump is unfit to serve, to speak out. And I know that we've got some time before Election Day, but I'm hoping that as we get closer and they see the threat that Donald Trump is and the very real chance that he could be president again, that they will come forward.
I think it's so important to state here, both of you spoke out in your 20s. Young women who were Republican, who supported the Republican Party, supported Trump, spoke out because it wasn't right in your 20s. There are a lot of people, including older men And she said it, but I'm going to repeat it, who have not. Do you wish they would?
Of course, I wish anybody would that was in the administration, that maybe not even until January 6th, but people that know Donald Trump's character. When we evaluate the politicians that we elect to office, policy is important, but especially in this period in American history, character takes precedent over policy positions. When we look at this election, there have been more people that have spoken out, but what I take issue with is when they speak out once or twice and expect that to be enough.
And they're quiet then after that.
Exactly. Trump World has an effective mechanism where they do hold a megaphone to the American people, where they use that megaphone to spread conspiracy theories and lies, and that's how they manipulate and seduce people to believing what Donald Trump says. We need people who are on the inside to do the exact same thing, but to speak truth to the power of the lies that Donald Trump has done. Otherwise, we might be tumbling towards a dictatorship.
Tumbling towards a dictatorship. Yep. We got to speak out. We got to speak out often. And that is one of the reasons we created this organization. So why don't you head on over to our website, permanentmajority.us. And once there, you can subscribe to all of our social media accounts. And please don't wait. Donate. It's very easy. All you got to do is hit that donate button right there. And in seconds, you've given us a whatever amount of money you feel works for you. And before you go, why don't you watch that video in the lower left-hand corner? It's an excellent one. And make today a PM day. Watch PM videos in the AM, PM videos in the PM, and just get to know our site